I guess we'll get this show on the road, as we got a little bit of some stories to tell, so to speak. So hi there, everyone, and welcome to Otherworldly Stories. Now, if you're not familiar with this panel, we have a number of stories from our adventures of LARPing, which is live-action roleplay, as well as some tabletop mishaps and other happenings that happens to both players and DMs alike. And then again, through live-action roleplay, where, as Alkali likes to say, sometimes we do things as gamers, and sometimes things happen to us. And so a lot of these stories will be based on events and things that happen that are more or less relatable to any gamer of great experience or no experience, and understand that stuff happens, and sometimes you have to slip out of character and deal with those situations. Obviously, we have our panelists, Phelan. If I'm not mistaken, you just started LARPing.
Yeah.
You had your first event over...
Yeah, back in October I did my first LARP. Prior to / concurrent with that, I've been a Dungeon Master for like 11 years now.
So you've seen some things.
I've seen some things. I've done some things.
Share with us something you may have seen.
Oh gosh.
Or done.
Well, I got a crazy lady in my head at my first event for LARP.
You too?
Yeah! Yeah!
God damn it, guys. The first thing we said when doing this panel, we were like, all right, because something happened. This panel was run by other people at a different convention, and they went up there, and I came in half an hour in here, and there's like, and that's when I took my 90th level character and annihilated the forces! Worship me!
I might have gotten one of those in my head.
Well, we played with a few of those. We're like, you know what, we're going to keep some down-to-earth, awesome stories. Number one, so a crazy person went into my brain! Awesome!
Obviously, up on screen, we'll have some photos of some of our adventures and some of the people that rolled with us over the years. So again, Phelan's fairly new. Alkali is... I always tell the story, but Alkali is guilty of getting me into LARP, much as I am guilty of me getting him into the furry fandom.
We traded.
And we more or less swapped, where he dove, obviously, headlong, feet first, nose, I mean, you're Jews, nose first into...
It just means when I dive in, it makes no splash. It's aerodynamic.
No, you did. I seen Uncle Scrooge in the money pits. But you dove headlong into that, and I glommed onto LARPing and going out into spending entire weekends of pretending to be somebody else. And I think our friend Bada, you've been LARPing for about how many years now?
It's going on 5.
Going on about 5 years, and you said something that is guaranteed to win any nerd fight.
Oh yeah. Some of us up here can win any nerd off ever with 4 easy words, and it's I LARP my persona.
I think that's on the scale of the nerd hierarchy, somewhere with like Trekkie fanfic and...
Yeah, right. It's one level down there. Right?
This is Dusty White. This is our my podcast host, Dusty White, and you have been LARPing now for
17 years? 17? Yeah, I think so.
And I am, well, obviously we all know Alkali, who got me into LARPing, and he's been doing it for about 22?
12. No, I've been doing LARPing longer than I played D&D, so yeah, 20, 23, 20, yeah, sure.
I'm
too old to know how long I've been doing this.
And I'm coming up to my 20th anniversary this year. So I started right out of high school for the third time. So obviously we have stories, and I mean it would be a shame to not have Alkali start off with one.
Well, we're gonna go with something that wasn't a LARP for once, because as my buddy was just walking away, if you didn't know, that was John. He helps me run the con. I just got a message, and because all these guys are so wonderful, he's dealing with it instead of me.
Yay!
Woo! I honestly could not ask for anything more. This is the best year. Well, he and I have been playing tabletop, Nero, everything like that for as long as I can remember. And at one point, I love the games. And at one point, we were playing a game called Shadowrun. Actually, what this weekend is based off of. Now, Shadowrun's a little bit of a different kind of game, especially when I run it. Shadowrun almost doesn't need a DM. I'm just there to kind of keep the world in check. Because most of Shadowrun is the plan. Shadowrun is all about planning. So when they found out that they needed to get to the 30th floor of an office building that required 2 different key card accesses and a passworded door that only 2 people knew the password, the CEO of the company and a single security guard. The next 4 hours of that gaming session was just the players entertaining the living shit out of me because they needed to come up with a plan to pull that off, and I would like to share with you right now what they came up with. First off, they robbed the Brookfield Zoo. This was a necessary first step of the plan. Step 2, they robbed a Home Depot mainly for air fresheners. They needed them for the van, which they also robbed from the Home Depot. So we have 2 robberies so far, and they succeeded, and that's when their plan went into action. For one of them was a demolitionist. He had access to explosive devices, rocket launchers, but more importantly, landmines. So outside of this office building, starting at the very back, furthest from the door, they put a trigger mechanism that until a landmine is triggered, almost a block away from the door, none of the other landmines are activated. And when that hits, all landmines active. And then they released 30 skunks into the air ducts of that building. That was their plan. I don't know what they rolled, but I was laughing hard enough that the building fell over. 30th floor is first floor if it's on the ground. They succeeded. And from that day forward, that's why if you play Shadowrun, rats, squirrels, and other city wildlife has all been replaced by skunks in my universe. Bastards.
I mean,
It was they were brilliant. It was legitimately one of the best thought out plans we've had. It was way better than them driving the car into the lobby and just dying. They drove it in, crashed through the window, and played dead and hoped for the best. That was a plan. It didn't go as well as skunks and landmines.
sounds like an indie rock band. Like Skunks and Landmines.
All the people,
prog
they
rock.
just died.
Prog rock.
Oh!
I like prog rock, actually.
Back to you.
So, Bada, you've had some adventures in, because we participate in 2 specific LARPs in the area. And if anybody's interested in LARPing, there are a number of LARPs to play between high fantasy adventure, which is primarily what we play, but there are some zombie apocalypse type ones that put you in situations where you need to survive a zombie apocalypse, and other type games. World of Darkness has their famous ones with werewolves and vampires and such. Non-combat type games where they do paper, scissors, rock, and such. But we are a far more, at least the game I play, Alliance, is a far more combat-intensive type things. And I believe, one of you guys have a story akin to such?
As far as the Janet? Is that okay? So as some of these pictures are going, a couple of these pictures are coming from South Michigan Alliance chapter, and they are known for their prop monsters. And one of the pictures in this roll is a hook horror.
Who's familiar with what a hook horror is?
Any D&D fans, it's
You're looking
pretty scary.
It's probably best represented as a 9 to 10 foot tall bug.
Yeah.
All white, usually lures its prey, hooks them in, and pulls them up. So they're pretty nasty things.
So usually when we're LARPing, it's a lot more of your imagination is being used. If I fight somebody with a black tabard on or a white costuming on, I will go, I'm visibly representing a hook horror. But no, they go a step further here, and they decide to do a New Orleans type prop monster, all dressed in black, backpack, and just come full gear, rushing, racing towards us. And I call it my Cloverfield moment because I am on the breast of a field and it's dark, like midnight at this point, and there's fog rolling in, and all I see is a white flash from here to me from the back of the room. And Kristen has a moment where she freaks out and tells everybody to get down because I don't know what I'm seeing. And then I realize it is a hookor. I'm physically seeing something fighting as a hookor about 100 yards. And I just basically scream and run away. Like, that's basically what happened. So, I mean, as far as hotbox punchy rocks, that's more physical. Which one's telling the story?
Yeah, you go ahead. You got that one.
So one of the stories we like to call hot box punchy rocks, and this took place in August in Michigan. So it's hot and humid and just gross. Everything is sticking to everything. No amount of Gold Bond powder will assist things sticking to things. And so they do a good job on trying to make sure that your high-level players and your low-level players have some sort of separation. Because you do have the issue in some games, in persistent worlds like this, where you have high-level players. Oh yeah, Outline. We have all of the old stuff. We have all of the old things.
We have one of them from Chronicles.
So what you're dealing with is the high-level players and low-level players playing in this persistent world, much like an MMO, where you have problems sometimes that arise of trying to get people together to play together. Well, Alliance does a really good job on trying to, and a lot of games will do a good job in trying to separate your player level so they're not dealing with, stuff that you shouldn't be dealing with, your high aggro and whatnot. So what they end up doing is they separate the module to be, the adventure for the players to be, hey, all the high level will stand outside of this building and basically protect those that are inside, which are the lower levels, myself at the time, to basically solve this puzzle. And again, the guys that run this game are also electrical engineers, so they have a obelisk that is touch activated by these stones that we found throughout the weekend. So when you put these stones into the obelisk will light up in certain sections. And the goal is to get the whole thing to light up, as per any over-the-top sci-fi film, Stargate and such, where you put the things together and it lights up and you know you did the thing. The problem is, though, is that while a lot of these LARPs have no physical contact rules, did you ever, tabletop your friends? Or, flick their ears? Or do things that are just outside the norm? Like, obviously, I would not go up to one of you guys and just tackle you. But Alkali in the street is going to get, ankle pounce. That's about as high as I can jump. So, but you'll do that with your friends. You'll be a little bit more physical because there's a level of trust. Well, those of us that were inside of this 85-plus degree humid room were trying to get this obelisk and get this thing lit up and going, which is the hot box. And we were trying to, as we're trying to put this obelisk together, the punchy rocks were our NPCs, our creatures that were forming from the stones and beating us up. Problem is, though, is they were getting more and more aggressive because they're close friends of mine that were getting to the point of any horror film where I would see someone like him drop in the room that we're in. One of the enemies would grab his ankles and just pull him.
Go on.
So from my point of view, I see like a tarp wall, his zebra face staring at me like, help, brother. And then he gets pulled behind the scenes and just murdered behind the scenes. So we're full on freaking out trying to get this thing going. And it turns into a probably 3-hour endeavor of us inside this room, constantly fighting, while outside, they're trying to protect us from the bigger rocks that are trying to kill us. Well, I'm just absolutely dehydrated. I'm tired. I need a breather. It's too sweltering in that room. I go to step outside to take a breather because we're getting pushed around, slammed. It's a hockey fight inside of this box. And I go to step outside for a quick breath of air. It's cool. It's still, 80-something degrees, but the night air is feeling good. And I need a breather from the armor and the steel and the chainmail and the makeup and everything I'm wearing. And then I hear circus music and Fey piano music playing around the vicinity and go, this is not good. In front of me, I see an arch of our allies protecting us, but some other members of plot. To say he is Slavic or Norwegian or a Viking blood would probably be full beard, little satyr horns, shirtless, and screaming into the night, bring me more wine, as creepy circus music is playing throughout the room. I see all the players not attacking this, which if anybody played any kind of game, when nobody's attacking a creature, there's probably a reason for it. Like generally, you don't want to let the bad guy monologue. As soon as the bad guy monologues, everybody knows you jump him, you beat him up.
You never let them monologue.
No, he was.
I was always yelling at them to stop.
Yeah, you were.
So he is full on monologue. Bring me more wine. You with the bow, shoot your friend in the butt. You do a dance for me. And I looked to this, and after being thrown around, beat, dragged, seeing my friends basically get murdered in a little house of horrors, realized, no, I'm not messing with this guy either. Turn around and what we call the world's littlest nope. Turn back around, back into the box. I later found out from the story that as soon as I walked in from a friend's perspective, the door didn't even close yet, and 3 enemies just jumped out at me, and I just disappeared into the crowd. So, so again, it's one of those things of with friends, you kind of get away with some physical contact that kind of happens. So, but that is the hot box punchy rock story that we like to tell in our little circle.
I got another nope moment.
Oh, nope moments.
No moments are great.
Yeah, so I was NPCing at Alliance Chicago, and it was a 3-day weekend. We're about 2.5 days through it, so people are getting tired, they're getting sore, they're getting salty, because we've just been running through the ringer all weekend, just cleaning house. And we decided we want to do a little bit of comedic relief. And so what me and a bunch of the other NPCs do is we put on just green face paint, we put on green tabards, we're going to be the world's worst goblins. And so like we go through like all the props that we have, and we find like the worst weapon props we can get. So like I had like this tiny little like butter knife buffer. It was like a foam butter knife about this big. Someone had a crossbow that was like fits in the palm of your hand. Someone got like a rock, and someone got this like
Pew, pew.
Wile E. Coyote style bomb prop. That'll come up later. And so we go into town, and we're talking super high and squeaky like goblins do. And we're going in and talking about how sneaky we're going to be, and we're going to steal everything in town at the top of our lungs, just as loud as we possibly can. And I hear inside the tavern, like I can't see because all the blinds are drawn, but I hear like just a ton of shuffling and a bunch of commotion because people in there just like don't know what's going on. They just hear something coming to town. And so everyone like kind of is like, okay, we're going to go around back like you up front. I'm like, okay, cool, sure, throw me away, it's fine. And so I grab a leaf off a tree, and I pull a classic goblin trick, and I go up to the door, and I fling it open, and right in front of me is a ring of all of the most powerful people in town just braced for it. Because they don't know what's going on. And I hold up the leaf in front of my face, and I go, I'm a tree! And they stop, and they look at me, and I'm like, what? And I shuffle forward like a couple half steps, and everyone's like, oh, man. And I'm like, I'm a tree! And just keep shuffling forward and repeating that and telling them to make sure, I'm a tree, don't worry, just a tree here. And like they start parting and getting out of the way and letting me through. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And someone leans in and is like, hey, out of game, like physical description, what are you repping? And I'm like, oh, goblin with a leaf in front of his face. And they're like, oh, all right. And they beat me down. I don't even have stats, so I just go down and by his pace, whatever, I threw him a coin. And it's at this point that another one of our goblins tumbles into the room in the back. And they start humming the Mission Impossible theme as they just like start like sneaking along the back, and everyone turns around and stares at them. I'm dying laughing, like out of game in the corner, stone faced from everyone else. They're just like, "What is this? This is nonsense. This is nothing." And we're just like, so she's doing that. They beat her down, and it's at this point that the guy with the goblin prop or the bomb prop comes in and goes, "Nobody move! I've got a bomb!" Everybody in the room stops dead. Because what we didn't know is that earlier that weekend, someone else used that same bomb prop for a bomb that the effect on it in game terms was a 50-foot radius shatter spirit. What that means is basically, normally when you die in the game, you have like a certain amount of time to get a life spell, and if everything's fine, you're good, whatever. This means, do not pass go, you are dead, goodbye. So everyone in the room is about to die.
I like to call that the red fine mist.
Yeah.
The
And so, like, everyone's just like looking at him and like, be cool, man. Be cool, don't do nothing crazy. And like the NPC has no idea what's going on. He has no idea why they're so scared, but he's like, all right, cool, let's do this. So he's like, yeah, throw me some gold, bring me snacks. And they're just like loading up like trays of snacks, like armfuls, just like bring them to him and just like on the ground, like, here you go, sir, this is for you. Until finally, like, someone leans in and it's like, hey, out of game, is this recognizable as like the Turnian bomb from earlier? He's like, no, it's some piece of crap a goblin made, man. And they're like, oh! And they beat him down.
I do have to say, goblins were always a fan favorite of ours. We loved utilizing goblins until the most powerful goblin ever Senior Vorpal Kickasso, played by that idiot right there. I was running plot with him. He was my number 2 for an entire year where they gave us free reign. It was amazing. It was some of the best time I've ever had running Nero. And one day he came out of the prop office with a pack of tinfoil and said, "Do goblins wear armor?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Do they wear tinfoil?" 4 of us dressed him head to toe in mummy-wrapped tinfoil. Fun fact, tinfoil just gives you paper cuts. So he's standing there, should we stop? He goes, "It's worth it. Senior Vorpal Kickasso feels no pain." And he marched into town with what, like 18 NPCs? You took everyone, right?
I had 3 refitters.
You're like, okay, oh, that's right, they were the So all of his goblin compatriots did not bring weapons. All they did was walk behind him, repairing his armor. Now, in-game, the way to repair an armor is 60 seconds. Or, if you have a skill called Rapid Refit 1, Rapid Refit 2, Rapid Refit 3, Refit Complete.
And in a big fight, 57 seconds could make or break a fight.
But you know what? We're big on representation. We want you to understand that Rapid Refit 1, 2, 3 doesn't mean that you're quickly So we gave all the other goblins duct tape. And what?
More tin.
Oh, and more tinfoil. So all the battle was him standing there, literally flailing because he's a goblin, with 3 other of our friends with duct tape. Just bam, bam, bam. It's over his face. They're wrapping the tape around his head. They take his weapon and repair it while he just waits. We finished up that encounter. He comes back. He takes off the tinfoil. It looks like he's into self-mutilation. He is covered in paper cuts. Absolutely. We're like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" He goes, "Okay, I'm going back out there at that guy once I stop bleeding." Loved Senior Vorpal Kickasso.
So speaking of making things, one of my absolute favorite things as a dungeon master in D&D is my merchants. I love my shopkeeps. They are my biggest creative outlet. Some personal favorites are Bella and Vella, 2 souls in one body who have completely conflicting decorating and shopping tastes. It's great. It's great. Like half of the shop is decorated like classic Gothic Victorian, and the other half looks like a circus.
Do your PCs just come in and watch you have a 5-minute conversation with yourself?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Every chance they get, they're like, "Hey, can we go see Bella and Vella?" And I'm like, "I hate you, but yes."
Let me get into character. I feel pretty.
Victorian Gothic music on the left, circus music on the right.
Yep. Oh, it's great. It's great. There's Uncle Toby, who is the 400-year-old gnome who runs kind of like a pawn shop, but he's also a cleric. So whenever he hears the front doorbell ring, he just shouts, "Who's dead?" He's always waiting for someone to be dead, and the party always lets him down. There is Boris's Bellows. He is a cloak mimic, and he sells cloaks. Welcome to Boris's Bellows.
That's a good. I broke character. I'm like, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Do you have a spot open on your table? Because I totally want in.
Oh, definitely. Sometime. And my personal favorite is Arkin. Arkin's Astounding Armaments, the bargain bin discount store of all your +1s, your basic rudimentary stuff, including some choice things the party has gotten from him. Arrows of slaying that scream his name while they're fired. A quiver that's made from a giant electrical eel that says, "Our sales are shockingly good." A shield that only works against bad puns. Renders you immune to Tasha's hideous laughter. And my personal favorite, the Ring of Protection, that when you first attune to it, and every time it saves you, says, "He went to Arkin." I like my shopkeeps.
You up, boyo?
Well, I don't know. I'm actually kind of impressed with all of those. Kind of want to be in your world. Character building is obviously a huge part of these things. It doesn't help to fight a person. When you're a low-level person, when you're starting D&D even, what do? You help the farmer. You clear out the goblin cave. You do all those things. And we're all used to it. And that's what I love about the LARPs that we play, and obviously some of the tabletops that we run, because there's no such thing as a nobody monster. There's not a nobody giving you a quest. No. There's people like Puppy Punter. Puppy Punter giving out quests. That's right, Ed.
Puppy Punter.
Puppy Punter.
Doombringer.
Oh, Doombringer Puppy Punter. You're right.
Not a bad guy.
No, he's a good guy.
Wink.
He walks into town covered in weapons, says, I have need for assistance, for I am Doombringer Puppy Punter. And my second in command goes, well, help. Now we went on thank you. So we went on this quest.
You got bills to pay. You can't pick and choose. You got bills to pay. I get it.
So we go on this quest. Now bear in mind, this was played by a friend of ours, Mike. Mike ran the game before I did. He took us out on this quest. He had 3 NPCs ready to go. And the mod was what you think it was. The mod was us going against kobolds. Whatever. That's not the story, and that's not what matters, and that's why I love dragon puppies. In Nero, they're puppies. Kobolds are dogs in Nero. I don't know why they do that. I've always wondered that one. But anyway.
No. Kobolds were originally dogs in...
Oh, is that what?
In D&D First Edition, kobolds were originally dog-like creatures.
No, they were.
Because I actually used that for a LARP event, but side story, not tell that.
I like dragon chihuahuas.
But yeah, it wasn't until third. Might need to be fact checked on this. It wasn't until second or third when they actually changed it from small red dog-like demon-like creatures, which could be from the Satanic Panic.
Yeah, so it probably was only first edition.
Changed into lizard-like creatures. For anybody who's played Neverwinter Nights, Deacon.
Yo, Deacon's the best.
So yeah, so they changed the lizards.
Well, we went on the module, and it was a totally normal fight, but what stood out was Puppy Punter. Because Puppy Punter joined us on the fight, and we got to see his weapon of choice. Stuffed dog that he kicked at the kobolds. But it's okay, because we had also formed a secret weapon. See, my mother, she worked at a school district, and they were getting rid of all their gym equipment. They got rid of all their dodgeballs, and I had thrown weapon. So
I heard that comment.
They got rid of all their dodgeballs. So in a pillowcase on this side of my hip, I was just whipping dodgeballs at kobolds. But on this side of my hip, for some reason, her school had foam frisbees. Normal foam frisbees that you could use as weapons. And myself and John loved frisbee, so we had to turn these into weapons. And the first time I threw one, we found out that not only were they all prepared for this particular weapon, but they had talked about it beforehand. Because when I threw the first frisbee, every dog-like humanoid and Doombringer Puppy Punter with his plush dogs on leashes just dragging behind him chased my frisbee going and just left. And the mod ended, we got nothing, and we walked back to town with one of the greatest stories ever. They stole my frisbee.
I think they get it back next adventure.
Oh, they totally did, with a 10 normal right to my chest. Hey, you want frisbee back?
So for I guess I wasn't expecting this story, and this actually happened for one of my birthday. Obviously, the LARPs that we play have full weekend events, so it takes place Friday night until Saturday. Actually, a lot of the LARPs that are, I guess, higher production value will do that. And I'll throw some names out: Dystopia Rising, Nero Grand Rapids, Alliance South Michigan, Nero Kalamazoo, Alliance Chicago. So for anybody in the Midwest region, and again, Dystopia Rising actually has one in Wisconsin. They just opened one up in Michigan. So for you, anybody that's interested in Midwest LARPing, it's 2020. It's great. There's so many things you can look at if you Google it, and you'll be able to find whatever you're looking for. But
Google it.
Google. You got to see Big Mouth. on Netflix.
No,
anyway.
they do not.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Give them ideas.
That's the fun. But so if you Google, you'll be able to find something in your vicinity in your neck of the woods. Because I mean, we drive.
Philadelphia.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's pro.
There's a Nero Pro is still out there. I think there's a couple Alliance chapters out there too.
Yeah.
So one or two out
It's
there.
pretty well spread. If you look it up, chances are you will find one within 2 hours of you.
Philadelphia.
It's not called Philadelphia. It's called Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nero
it's
Pro.
Although I think
Oh,
that's actually
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Oh yeah. maybe.
Which
In fairness, you will be sidetracking. In fairness, you will be traveling a little bit. I know Dusty White and I will end up traveling about 4 hours, give or take, on a regular basis. The way I look at it is, we are staying there from Friday night till Sunday.
It's essentially a con.
So it's basically it's what you're
con
doing for
murder.
conventions.
Yeah.
What you're doing at conventions. It's one of the more. It's my exercise. It keeps me in shape. That stuff. But so as I was saying, for the weekend, it was my birthday weekend, and obviously, much like furries and LARPers, we have that sense of community with our own, and we very pride ourselves on being with those that we care for, whether we're seen as weird by our families or we don't get along. Like, I'm a big believer of family as those that you choose. Not you're just your blood relatives, but you choose your family as well. So it's my birthday, and at the time, kobolds were still dog-like creatures. I had been preparing for the last year or so that any kobold-type creature that was in the area, I was going to basically mind control them. There's potions and other things to say that the white-bellied kobold will soon come to save them all. I play a fox, red dog-like creature, with a white belly down my chest. Plot enjoyed it. They're like, okay, fine, it's funny. It's kind of a one-off gag. And then it died for like 6 months. Any good DM knows that something that might be a one-off gag, you write that down and you bring it up later. A returning gag, a third act, a full circle punchline. So at this point, nothing's been heard from them. It's been whatever else. It's my birthday on a Saturday. I'm at the event. I'm having a good time. And then a train of kobolds come in with a birthday cake, singing happy birthday. The problem is that while kobolds are sneaky, devious, troublesome creatures, the nobility, anybody that's in power at the game, the high levels, are now looking at me, wondering why a group of enemies are presenting me a birthday cake. So, ultimately the takeaway is, be careful who you make friends with, or if you're going to tell a joke, finish the punchline before your dungeon master finishes the punchline for you.
Oh my god, that's good.
So Red here was talking about high value LARPing and things like that. And as conveniently enough on this photo, this is what I like to call LARP prom. This is an event that this chapter's Alliance South Michigan does every year, and it represents the killing of a dragon actually in game, and it's called Dragonfall. And Persistent World, and it is, wouldn't you say like LARP prom?
Yeah, that's about it.
So the plot team basically takes the opportunity to thank the players that they come every year. And again, this is a Persistent World of you slayed this dragon. Let's make this about the adventurers. Let's make this about the PCs.
The dragon was the end of what, like a 10?
5 or 10 year persistent story.
And it's important to emphasize, actual, literal 10 years of the story started in 2005?
Yeah.
2005, the story started of this dragon coming and destroying things, and 10 real life years of dealing with anything that the dragon was doing, any disciples or minions or worshippers of the dragon. For 10 actual literal years, a story is
Being told. And so the adventurers, basically, again, 10 years later, they do slay the dragon. It's basically now turned into a festival that they do every year. Yeah, that was Janet. So this is LARP prom. They basically go all out. As you can see, a couple of those pictures, there's a full palanquin of meat served. And they have people come in and they host it and cater it, and it is fantastic. And I really encourage anybody that wants to dip their toe into LARPing or try to experience it is look for something like this. It is a great, fantastic opportunity to come try out LARPing and have it feel like it is nonstop. That event or that moment and some of these shots, them serving food and being surrounded by people that go the extra mile to really represent their character. Nobody's eating, plastic bottles and things like that. It is full out great representation. And I sat in my little bench there when this was being served, and they dimmed the lights and there's candle and everything, and I really did have an real experience of being basically in a tavern in medieval, and it was great. It was so great.
That's one of the beauties of LARP over some of the other forms that we're talking about here over tabletop. And it's a very weird and random thing, but sometimes you will lose yourself. I don't honestly remember who it happened to, but we have a gentleman that ran plot with us, Tim. We had to turn him into a death knight. Now that meant that we bald capped him, white makeup all over his head, into his shirt line, put on the medieval shirt, but then he's a skull. So around here, black, around the eyes, black. And as he walked out into the room, a good friend of ours who was on the adventure actually took a step back, and we talked to him later, and he said for a moment when the light hit just right, Tim did not exist, and all that walked out was a gaunt skeletal figure. And that's something wonderful about LARP that you really can't appreciate anywhere else. Somewhere in this slide you saw one of me with a half face. That was the end of our one-year plotline. That was the character Doris. Jen, a friend of ours who's also in this slideshow, she did 3 hours of makeup on me to turn me into this putrid creature, this creature that was actually there because he could not give up his love. And it was the first time the PCs had ever seen me without a mask on. It's the first time they're going to interact with me. And who was it? It wasn't you that peeked. Okay, good. It was, you're right. Well, I turned around. This side of the face, gangrene. They had a whole layer of latex on here. Pulled off. Burnt to hell. This side, skull. Using more latex, really giving it depth. And Hannah turned around when I was this far from her, screamed so loud that my ears hurt, and then when I peed a little. And yeah, that was the reaction we were looking for. But that is the beauty of LARP over tabletop, and really getting into the characters is you'll forget. You'll forget it's a game for just the briefest of moments, and it's all worth it. It's worth it for those moments.
Now, I could piggyback on that and say sometimes when those moments are real and those moments make you fully submerge you and immerse you into the world that exists, the moments that immersion breaks are even funnier.
Oh, yeah.
So, at Dragonfall, at the gathering where the nobles are together, and at the head table, the king, who is played by our shirtless friend earlier, the long beard. I mean, he, full beard, slicked hair. Like, if he shows up to your house, like, I did not order my Viking Weekly, but come in. So, like, he is full Viking look, and he was playing the king. Now, this king has been long established as a goodly king. Obviously, everybody's kind of wants to be skeptical, like, maybe he's got skeletons in the closet or something. He's played and portrayed as one of the more noble, kingly, stoic, good characters. He's timeless, so he's lived for hundreds of years, but he's the king. And our friend is playing this king, and he's at the head table where the nobles are all sitting and they're enjoying our feast, and we literally had 100 pounds of venison and rabbit and beef and all sorts of stuff celebrating the fall of Dragonfall, the fall of the dragon Bleak. So the king is there and he's watching, and they're doing bardic contests, and they're singing songs and praising the people that are all there. And however, one of the plays that the players decide to do is one of the inaccurate retelling of Bleak, of the fall of Bleak. And she tells a story in her own creative way, but one of the things she mentions is, like, and the adventurers are getting ready for war, and the peasants are doing whatever peasants do. However, the king is sitting at the table, and he broke character. Because as the king, you're not expecting one of the adventurers, the other people, to be like, oh, whatever peasants are doing. And he goes, ha! Has to more or less stand up and be like, I'm sorry, I should not have said that. So there's moments that no matter what you do as a player, as a character, in a situation and setting, that will trigger some sort of dark humor or a thought or something to go, I didn't mean that, but that's happening now.
I will say, those moments will solidify your friendships because in the moment you will experience nothing but bitter rage at your friend who doesn't know how to cast a damn charm spell.
Wait, what?
Ass.
You were human. You didn't know what? What?
So.
Wait, which game? Is this?
Nero!
Oh no!
I took your con chair to Nero with me. I was playing a very high-level character. We're not going to get into it. The way the character works is the ends justify the means. That's all you need to know about this guy. And he's traveling with me. He has a few extra spells, and all of a sudden, I am hit with, Nick, the best player in the game. This is not a level thing. This is pure at the time. I've been gone for like a decade. At the time, this is one of the most powerful, best fighters in the game, and he gets hit what's called a berserk. So he turns around and starts murdering all the good guys. They're getting slaughtered by this one guy. And I'm out of spells. And while backpedaling, I am screaming this one, charm him, charm him, charm him! She said, cast charm! And what did you say?
Sleep. Wait, now to be fair, I have never played Nero before, and I gave myself a character, a shtick, to excuse why I was so dumb. I was a scavenger, basically the generic, if you're a furry in Nero, you're a scavenger. So I was a snake, of course.
I LARPed my persona.
Exactly. So I had the full face paint. I had full airbrush snake make
really
face
good.
paint and everything. It worked really well for the bald dome. You had to do the bald cap. I just shaved.
Yeah, I was jealous.
And so I decided I was going to be essentially the burnout hippie who did too many drugs and woke up one day with the ability to cast. So I was essentially, sup, man? I was Snake the Dude the entire
Well, I'm screaming at him to cast charm, and finally at the top of his lungs he screams like, how? And half the people who are dead go, I command you to be charmed, dude. And so he goes, I charmed! And throws the packet, looks at me and goes, I panicked, and walked away.
Now, the part 2 to this is all of this calms down, everyone rushes over. He is unconscious, and we're trying to make him not die, and Nick is charmed, sleep, unconscious, what have you. And so I'm going, oh, we have to heal. And everyone's like, yeah, we got to get healing. Who's got healing? Who's got healing? And no one asked the important question. Who cured the rage? Answer, no one. Alkali gets raised, Nick gets raised, boom, 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 boom. 4 people down, again, immediately.
And by the way, you still didn't cast charm.
No, I did cast it. I got the incantation right, but I was off by about 30 degrees. I
Panicked. Thank you very much, Traveler.
Now, speaking of panicking, being a first-time player and fun experiences, we had this fantastic incident at my first one where there was an arcane pox that was breaking out, and people, all the spellcasters were having problems. And it's late at night. I am a starting level character. I am a healer as well. And I have expended a lot of things. I do all my buffs and whatnot. And so they're going to go, the high-level wizards are going to go and fix the pox. And they're like, hey, Ramble, you want to learn about ritual casting? You should come along. I'm like, well, I've used up most of my spells. I can't buff you very much. And this sounds kind of scary. Strike one. I should not have gone. They're like, no, you're fine. You're another set of eyes. Just come along. So then we're going down the hill, and we're getting attacked by enemies, as we're going down the hill, stumbling along these steps. And I'm like, this is kind of turning into a problem. Strike 2, I should have turned around. We get to the bottom of the hill where the magical tower is. And there is a spell that goes off when we get in range. Like a 50-foot radius, if you don't know ritual magic, you need to leave. Strike 3, I should have turned around. and so I start going back. One of the wizards goes and does something. He's like, no, the charm's off. You can walk in the door now. I'm like, are you sure I should? Then we go inside. They start doing their ritual. We start getting attacked by time elementals. Everyone's dropping around me. I have almost no spells. I'm like, shield magic. All right, I'm empty. Meanwhile, the time elementals are coming for me, and I have this moment of genuine panic as the room is like filled with smoke, and I'm like, I'm surrounded by high-level people who are unconscious. I shouldn't be here. But I learned a lot about ritual magic.
You do.
The answer is don't.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been hinting on combat. We've talked about combat. Combat is one of those things that's another thing that's really central to LARP. And I just want to tell a quick story because I love this one because it has nothing to do with level. It has nothing to do with skill because at times during Nero, what it really is a battle of wits with swords involved, which is fun. I was playing a powerful creature. We were in a giant wave battle. The whole town is there. They're trying to take us out. The creature I am playing is not a monster. It is a game changer. You need to take me out because of the skills that this particular creature had. Do you have spell packets up here?
No. I'm a rogue.
Right.
Why would I have spell
That's
packets?
my bad.
I wasn't planning on bringing it.
That's my bad.
A spell packet, think of a handkerchief with some bird seed in it into a ball, and you put that between your fingers, and this is something you could throw at somebody. That's how you do spells. Now, I have very large hands, so I added this filled with spell packets between each finger, in the palm of my hand, in my pockets. That is the caliber of creature I was playing.
I don't have a packet. Sorry.
Close enough. That's also how you cast harmonics.
As a harmonic caster, I must object.
The battle's been going on for close to an hour. I have actually used every spell packet, but not every spell. I still have a spell called Enslavement that I get back every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes I can throw a packet. You are my bitch forever. Do you seriously carry an enslavement antidote around with you?
All times.
Who doesn't? You noob.
Well, I looked down at my hand. I'm out of packets. I went into my pockets. I'm out of packets. I went into the pouch that I wear under my tabard. I am out of packets. And I look around the field and I see the bucket. There is a bucket of spell packets. And I looked there and saw it, and I looked there, and I saw Jill. Jill, who is staring at me, and then looks at the bucket, and then looks at me. And we both run for the bucket. And I'm a larger gentleman. I mostly play casters because I don't move very well. If you haven't noticed, I don't so much walk as I do fall forward and catch myself repeatedly. So I'm going for it. Here comes Jill, and she slides through the bucket, knocking it everywhere, holding out her sword, and says, F you, and just hits me in the crowd.
She is a fully armored female, by the way.
She is wearing 60 pounds of actual plate mail. She is hysterical and wonderful and could easily kick my ass in real life.
She was in some of these pictures.
One of the nice things about LARPing, too, one of the phrases that a lot of people like to use is, be all that you can't be. So they put an emphasis on, you want to be an elven, like a female princess elven warrior, you can do that. And so a lot of our, obviously a lot of our friendships developed over the years that, as obviously we're coming to a close of the panel here, if you ever thought about it or ever considered on possibly like, hey, going to a LARP and doing something,
Do it.
Like, do it. It's a case of you'll be able to learn stuff about yourself. Like, I was raised by LARPing, so I was raised to be somebody other than I wasn't, and then got into furry and be that personality as well. But you started developing stuff about yourself.
Thank you, Acolyte.
Thank you, guys.
Love you, man.
No, I didn't want to interrupt you.
pulling out in a second anyway.
No, I just got to get to my other panel.
Where are you going, Algly?
Convention horror stories, main events.
Convention horror stories and main event in the next 5 minutes. So heads up for all. But to wrap it up, like, if anybody's ever had an idea of wanting to LARP or wanting to do such things, obviously Google it. Look around, talk to people in the community. We have some flyers kind of sitting on the table over here that will give you to at least our website. We love a lot of Facebook groups and stuff like that. There are different kinds too. If you're into Dungeons and Dragons and like high fantasy type stuff, there's a game for that. If you're into zombie apocalypse and more of a gritty, futuristic thing, there's a game for that. Pardon?
Firefly.
Yeah, Firefly LARPs exist. I know there's a LARP that is happening in Michigan that is a kind of a cyberpunk type LARP that takes place on an old submarine, like a decommissioned military submarine takes place there. I've heard stories of a LARP in Europe that the main rules for it is doing the tango.
That's how you do combat.
That's how you do combat.
So I challenge you, and we dance the tango together, and our peers will say, no, you did better, you won that combat, and they do that. So there's all kinds of games that are out there to really get you out of your shell. And a lot of it is, as a furry community, as well as LARPers, we share that crossroads of playing as somebody else or developing characters, as well as using aspects of ourself to put into those characters and to either highlight something we like or question something we don't like about ourselves to play those roles.
And as a new player, just one session under my belt, if you see something that looks cool, go for it. Like, so I was reading through the rule book and there was this harmonics casting thing. I'm like, this looks awesome. You get to do like poetry or songs and it makes your music, your spells more powerful. And Bada, who was helping me build my character, he was like, do it. Just a heads up, no one's gonna sit still long enough for you to do that more than like once or twice. And I was like, all right, that's fine. I'll give it my best try. I was doing that every single battle.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you didn't let people leave. And
No, sit down. I will give you your buffs.
You would literally close doors and be like, oh, give me a sec.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna. I as my character, I'm very much a fan of that kind of thing because it's a useful tool before you go to the battle.
Exactly.
And it's I don't have to use my resources until we're in the thick of things. You're going to sit and you're going to listen and you're going to applaud after this harmonics is done.
Yes.
So
I will give you buffs
enjoy it.
before we leave, and when we come back, I will heal you all.
I just want to say, as far as like people, anyone who does want to try LARP, the most important thing you can do is just show up. Because like obviously, like we've got garb, and people have like 20 years of experience doing things, they have like handcrafted weapons and etc. You don't need any of that to get started. It's nice, it's something you'll probably want to get eventually, it's something you'll make your own, but like you literally just have to show up the first time. People will take care of you. You don't even have to know the rules. We don't either, it's fine.
And I showed up with obviously some garb and whatnot, but like I walk in and people are like piling magic items on me too. They're like, here, take this armor, take this necklace, and take this ring.
Just like the furry community, I've really accepted recently for myself, but LARP communities are very tangential to that of giving, and you show up and people are there to support you and want you to play. Because honestly, I'm getting tired of playing with the same 30 or 50 people in the woods every year. So please come out and check it out. We will be more than happy to help you. Probably after this thing, we'll be here for a little bit. If you have any questions, please come find us. Several of us in the audience are fellow LARPers. So
we'll also do, for anybody that's interested in hearing more type stories and stuff, Grey Muzzle Geekery podcast is based on these experiences and such between LARPing and furry and stuff. We're actually doing a live recording tomorrow.
Right before Dragon Show.
For Dragon Show tomorrow at 4 p.m.
4:30.
Or 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock here in secondary.
3:30.
Can I get 3?
3, 2:32, 1 o'clock.
What's the actual time again?
That's at 4 o'clock in secondary here in the same room. We'll be doing our podcast. We'll have Dragor as our special guest. we'll do some interview and talk with him about LARPing, about the
DMing and tabletopping.
and the overlap between furries and gaming. There's a very thick overlap there. And just basically doing what we do. And
Come check us out, for sure.
check us out. So, anyway, I want to thank everybody that's here. Obviously, Alkali was here. We have Phelan, our wonderful DM, who will be doing charity D&D tomorrow at 11 a.m. Also in secondary.
Correct.
Puppies and kitties. Throw money for puppies and kitties, and more importantly, make our lives difficult.
Yeah.
Yours easy.
The more money you throw, the harder his life gets.
Sometimes you get some boons, but then
Sometimes some boots.
So 11 o'clock we'll have a charity D&D in this room tomorrow morning. And obviously my special guest is Dusty White. We have Bada Zebra, Badazuni. Big Bada Boom. And I am Dusty Red. And thank you everyone for coming out to Otherworldly Stories.
Silver Gatoman, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gatoman, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gatoman, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.